Here is a 2008 iMac with a faulty hard drive. Let's see what happens when it boots. Would you look at that? I installed Mac OS onto an external USB hard drive. Let's see if it'll boot from that. It looks like the computer works using my external hard drive. It says that the hard drive built in the computer is not recognized. Ignore. So as you see, this is my hard drive here. No other hard drive is showing up. Now we open Disk Utility. The internal drive is labeled Media and is not accessible. Now that we know what's wrong, it's time to change the internal hard drive. We will be putting in a brand new hard drive into the computer. So let's get started. Here are some of the basic tools and supplies needed. A replacement hard drive, a basic toolkit with a couple of Torx bits that are needed for inside the Mac, some suction cups to remove the glass, some spudgers, different kinds of spudgers, whichever comes in handy during the job. Very simple toolkit. The bottom of the computer has one single screw to remove from the memory cover plate. For your information, today we'll be following the iFixit instructions, which are very simple. As you see that we've already done that first step. Now on to the part I am most scared of. We will be putting suction cups on the screen corners. Just like that. So I'm wearing white gloves to prevent dust and fingerprints. Oh, and we got it off.
Really?
Yeah, just the lightest little tug. Now to remove the Torx 8 size screws. These 4 top ones are different than the other 8 screws. Okay, now the screws have been removed. Now there's obviously a connector here to disconnect. This one's covered in tape. The iFixit site doesn't show tape. I have now removed the tape covering the wire. Ay, ay, ay. And now you gently unplug that, and that is the microphone from the top bezel. Now for the next 2 steps, we need to disconnect the temperature sensor from way over here. Okay, it said to pull it straight up and disconnect it. Now we need to remove the two Torx 6 screws from over here for the connector for the display. There's one of the little screws. And two. So now there's this little black tab, and you pull straight up on it, and it should unplug this connector. Now if you thought that wasn't enough screws, now we have to unscrew the screen. Now these are Torx 8 screws, so I gotta switch back to the other tip and remove the 8 screws from the outside. Make sure to get this cable out first, then rotate the whole screen up, and there's some connectors to unplug on this side. Now as we can see here, we finally got into the hard drive. Now as you see here, there's tape securing this wire. Must be removed. Tape. Now we got the wires loose here. We must remove this little sponge here. And what do you know, the little temperature sensor came up with it. Keeps things easy. Now to pull the hard drive out. Okay, and then disconnection. And now the hard drive has been removed. Also, don't forget to transfer over this little pad over. And you gotta transfer the screws and the hardware bracket. So now the goal is to transfer over the hardware and screws from this hard drive to this brand new hard drive. So let's position them the same way. And let's transfer everything over. So now everything has been transferred over. Don't forget that the sensor went right here, so it should go about the same spot on this drive. And that little thermal pad was also on here too, that should be transferred over. I think it was here, so it should be transferred around the same spot. Okay, so before putting the drive in, let's go ahead and put this little foam piece, I think it went right about there. Now to connect the SATA power and data connections. Okay. Now to stick these in the little holes on the back side and get this little clamp to click in. So now the hard drive is installed and connected. Now we need to transfer over this little sensor, temperature sensor. So let's go ahead and put that in right here. And now there's that little piece of tape to hold the wires in place. So let's just put that right here. So there we go. Now the next step is to put the LCD screen in. But before I do that, I have to change the battery on my camera. Now it's time to put the LCD in. I must carefully connect these connectors back up. Okay, I was able to make sure the power connectors were able to tuck underneath like they should. And don't forget over here, tuck this wire into the little gap it was in before connecting this. And then there's this power connector to plug in. Once you align it, it should pop right into place, no problem. Now for testing, I will only put a few of the screws in just to hold it in place. Make sure this connector still sticks out. Now for some quick testing. Well, backlight works. Okay, good. Now that means that the hard drive still needs Mac OS put on it. So now to put the rest of the screws in. Now to change bits again. For these tiny little screws that hold the wire. Now it is time to put the frame back on. Starting with the connection here. Putting back the original tape that was on there. Now I'm tucking the wire back in the crack here. So that it's out of the way. Now to switch tips again. And start putting these screws back in. Now before the glass piece is put on, it's good to dust all the dust. There is little tiny pieces of dust on it. So here is a microfiber cleaning cloth. Leave it on there. Let's gently remove the dust. I had the glass put on aluminum foil to prevent dust from accumulating on it. So let us remove that. Good enough? Put it on now? Okay, now it does go on this way. Whoa. And there we go. And go ahead and clean that again. Okay. Okay, obviously one last thing to do. Switch bits again. And put this little cover back on here. Now the iMac has been fully assembled. So now I'll be booting off of this external hard drive. So let's see how that boots. Should be like my initial testing. And with that external hard drive, I'll be using that to install El Capitan for the whole thing. So now that the computer is booted, it says that the disk should be initialized. So let's try that. Initialize. So now it opens up disk utility. What do you know? There's a 320 gig hard drive right here. Now to continue the Mac OS install. I'll have the installer on the desktop for El Capitan, since this being a 2008, that I think is the newest one that can run on here without any hacks. So let's see how this works. El Capitan. Mac OS disk, that's the new one I installed. And there we go. So far so good. It should be running off his hard drive. So now macOS should be installed. Let's go ahead and remove my hard drive and try to boot it one last time. So now it's booting from the internal hard drive, which now has macOS El Capitan 10.11 installed. And what do you know? The Mac now works.